The warning sirens began at exactly 3 in the morning across every major city on Earth. People woke up confused and afraid. Television screens flickered to life with emergency broadcasts. The message was simple and terrifying. They were not alone in the universe, and someone was coming. Admiral Vex Thor stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his display. Behind him stretched 3,000 warships, each one capable of burning entire cities to ash. The Valkyrie Dominion had conquered 47 star systems, and this would be their 48th. He felt no concern. The primitive signals they had intercepted from this world showed a species barely capable of reaching their own moon. In Seoul, General Han sat in a dark room deep beneath the city. Around him, screens displayed data from 100 different sources. Satellites tracked the alien fleet. Hidden sensors measured their weapons. Computers analyzed their formation. Han's face remained calm, but his fingers drummed once against the table. Just once. Then he reached for the secure phone. The Valkyrie fleet moved past Mars without slowing. They ignored the small human settlements on the Red Planet. Vex Thor had read the intelligence reports. These humans had barely established a few research stations. They used chemical rockets. They still fought wars among themselves over resources and imaginary borders. They would surrender within hours of seeing Valkyrie power. Dr. Yuna received the call while working in her laboratory. She had expected it. For 15 years, she had prepared for this exact moment. Around her, the Aurora Project hummed with contained energy. Weapons that could tear holes in reality itself waited in silence. She activated her communicator and spoke 3 words to her team spread across the planet, the moon, and beyond. They are here. Captain Tay watched the Valkyrie fleet from his hidden position near Jupiter. His ship, the Silent Dawn, was invisible to their sensors. The aliens passed within 1,000 kilometers and never knew he was there. Tay smiled without humor. The Valkyrie used radar and basic energy detection. They had no idea that humanity had moved far beyond such simple technology decades ago. On Earth, Ambassador G stood before the United Nations Assembly. World leaders argued about responses. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to fight with their conventional military. G listened patiently, then spoke. The decision has already been made. It was made 30 years ago, when we detected the first Valkyrie signals. It was made when we saw what they did to the species who surrendered peacefully. It was made when we chose to appear weak, while growing strong. The room fell silent. The Valkyrie broadcast their message on every frequency. Vex Thor's face appeared on screens across Earth. He spoke in a universal language that his computers translated instantly. Primitive humans. We are the Valkyrie Dominion. We claim this system and all its resources. You will submit all weapons, all ships, all authority to us within 24 of your hours. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities. Compliance will result in your integration into our empire as a servant species. You have no choice. We have given this same message to 23 other civilizations. All of them now serve us. You will be the 24th. To demonstrate their power, a single Valkyrie destroyer moved forward. It targeted an unmanned orbital station that humans used for weather monitoring. A beam of superheated plasma lanced out. The station vanished in a flash of light. Debris scattered across orbital space. In the underground command center, General Han watched the display. Around him, military officers from every nation waited for orders. Han stood and walked to the main screen. He activated the communication system that would broadcast to the Valkyrie flagship. This is General Han of Earth. You have made a mistake. Leave our system now. This is your only warning. In space, Vex Thor heard the message and laughed. His officers joined him. A single planet, not even unified under one government, dared to warn the Valkyrie Dominion? The arrogance of primitives never ceased to amuse him. Send them images of our previous conquests. Show them what happened to the last species that refused to submit. The images came. Burning cities, broken fleets, entire civilizations on their knees. Earth's leaders watched in their command centers. Many felt despair. Some prepared to surrender. They did not know what General Han knew. They did not know what Dr. Yuna had built. Across the moon's surface, massive structures began to power up. They had been disguised as mining equipment and research stations for decades. Now, their true purpose became clear. In Earth's oceans, platforms that had seemed to be oil rigs transformed. Panels opened. Weapons rose. In orbit, what appeared to be simple satellites reorganized themselves into something far more deadly. Captain Tay received new orders. He moved his ship into position behind the Valkyrie fleet. His crew worked in silence. They had trained for this mission. Their entire careers. Some had been born on ships like this. Children of parents who had also prepared for the day when humanity would have to reveal its true nature. Intelligence Officer Mira compiled the final data. She had hacked into Valkyrie communications within minutes of their arrival. Their encryption was child's play compared to Earth's computer systems. She now knew the location of every ship, every weapon, every power source. She knew which commanders were aggressive and which were cautious. She knew Vex's Thor's complete military history. She passed all of this to the targeting computers. The 24 hours began to count down. News channels showed panicked crowds. Stock markets crashed. Some people prayed. Others rioted. Most simply waited and watched the sky, wondering if they would live to see another sunrise. In the command center, General Han stood motionless. Dr. Yuna arrived and stood beside him. Neither spoke. They had said everything that needed to be said years ago. Now there was only waiting. Ambassador Ji made one final attempt. She requested permission to board the Valkyrie flagship. Surprisingly, Vex Thor agreed. He thought it would be entertaining to see a human beg in person. A small shuttle carried Ji through space. Valkyrie soldiers escorted her roughly to the bridge. She stood before Vex Thor and delivered her message clearly. I am authorized to speak for all of humanity. Leave now. Leave our system and never return. This is not a negotiation. This is not a plea. This is a statement of fact. If you do not leave, you will die. Vex Thor stared at her for a long moment. Then, he laughed again. His officers joined in. The sound echoed through the bridge. Take her to a cell. Let her watch from there. When we begin burning her cities. The countdown continued. 20 hours. 15. 10. On Earth, General Han gave quiet orders. Weapons powered up. Targeting solutions finalized. Crews moved to their stations. Everything was ready. 5 hours remained. Then, 1 hour. Then none. The deadline passed. Vex Thor gave the order his empire had given 23 times before. Begin the attack. And General Han spoke 5 words that would change the galaxy forever. All stations. Full authorization granted. The first second of the attack was the last second of Valkyrie confidence. Vex Thor watched his tactical display as his fleet moved into attack formation. 3,000 ships spreading across Earth's orbital space like a closing fist. Landing craft prepared. Plasma weapons charged. It would be over in minutes. Then his display began to flash red. From the dark side of the moon, structures revealed themselves. They had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, disguised as ordinary human facilities. Now, they moved. Massive cannons rotated toward the Valkyrie fleet. Vex Thor had a moment to wonder what primitive weapons these might be before Dr. Yuna gave her command from her laboratory deep beneath Seoul. Singularity cannons. Fire. The weapons had no visible beam. They compressed space-time itself into a point smaller than an atom, then released it along a predetermined path. Where the path intersected with a Valkyrie ship, reality simply folded. Matter didn't explode. It didn't burn. It just stopped existing. Vex Thor watched as 1,000 ships vanished from his display. One moment they were there, sending him data, following his orders. The next moment, nothing. Not debris, not energy signatures, just empty space where warships had been seconds before. His hands gripped the command console. Around him, Velkari officers shouted in confusion. Alarms screamed. The mighty flagship's walls shook as something struck the shields. But these weren't ordinary impacts. Captain Tay's ship, the Silent Dawn, was no longer hiding. The reconnaissance vessel transformed, armor plates shifting, weapons emerging from concealed bays. It was a prototype warship, the first of Earth's new fleet. Its zero-point energy weapons pulled power from the quantum foam of space-time itself. The beams they produced could cut through Velkari's shields like they were paper. Tay's voice was calm as he gave orders to his crew. Target the heavy cruisers first. Don't let any of them get close to Earth. 100 Velkari ships died in the next 3 seconds. In Earth's oceans, Engineer Day stood in the command center of Platform 7. Water streamed off the massive structure as it rose from the depths. It had pretended to be an oil drilling rig for 20 years. Now its true form emerged. Weapons, batteries lined every surface. Day initiated the Cascade Protocol. Across the planet, 50 more platforms rose. In orbit, satellites that had seemed harmless for decades suddenly activated. They created a network of artificial gravity wells, invisible fields that trapped anything that passed through them. Half the Velkari fleet suddenly found themselves unable to move. Their engines screamed at maximum power, but they were caught in Earth's trap. The ships began to compress as gravitational forces increased. Metal screamed, hulls buckled. 500 warships were crushed into spheres of twisted metal in less than 10 seconds. Field Commander Sue led the strike craft squadron. Her fighter was small, barely 20 meters long, but it moved at speeds the Velkari couldn't match. Human pilots had trained in simulators that pushed them to the edge of consciousness. They wore suits that protected them from G-forces that would kill ordinary people, and they flew ships powered by engines that manipulated inertia itself. Sue's squadron cut through the Velkari formation like knives. Relativistic missiles launched at nearly the speed of light. When they hit, the kinetic energy released was equivalent to nuclear weapons. Velkari destroyers and frigates broke apart. Explosions bloomed in the void. In the command center, General Han watched the tactical display with the same calm expression he always wore. Numbers scrolled past. Enemy ships destroyed. Human casualties. The second number remained at 0. The first number climbed into the thousands. Intelligence Officer Mira sat at her station nearby. She had access to every Velkari communication channel. She listened as their commanders screamed orders, as they called for reinforcements that would never come, as they realized they were dying and couldn't understand why. One Velkari captain transmitted in the clear, abandoning all security protocols. What are they? How do they have this technology? Our intelligence said they were primitive. Mira allowed herself a small smile. The intelligence had been correct. An ancient probe from a civilization long dead. The technology inside had been like giving quantum computers to people who had just invented the wheel. It had taken decades to understand even the basics. But humanity had learned, and they had kept it secret. On the Velkari flagship, Vex Thor finally understood the truth. The primitive signals had been a lie. The chemical rockets had been a deception. The divided nations had been theater. Everything humanity had shown the galaxy had been calculated to make them seem weak and uninteresting. And his empire had fallen for it completely. He opened a channel to the second wave of his fleet. A reserve force of 500 ships waiting near Neptune. All units, retreat, full emergency. The transmission cut off. The reserve fleet had just encountered Earth's outer defense network. Captain Tay had deployed drones throughout the solar system, weapons platforms hidden on asteroids and moons. The Velkari reserve fleet died before Vex Thor could finish his warning. Dr. Yuna activated the Aurora Net. It was her greatest achievement, a weapon system based on quantum entanglement. Every major weapon in Earth's arsenal was connected. They could share targeting data instantly across any distance. They could fire in perfect coordination. And right now, every weapon was tracking the fleeing Velkari ships. The remaining 500 warships of the Velkari fleet broke formation. They scattered, trying to escape to their faster-than-light jump points. They needed distance from Earth's gravity well to engage their drives. They needed just a few more seconds. They didn't get them. Antimatter torpedoes launched from platforms on Mars. Each one contained exactly 1 gram of antimatter, suspended in magnetic fields. When they hit Velkari shields, matter and antimatter annihilated each other. The explosions released more energy than anything in the Velkari arsenal could produce. Ships vaporized, debris clouds expanded, and through it all, human weapons kept firing with mechanical precision. Vex Thor stood alone on his bridge. His officers were dead, killed when a human missile had breached the shields and detonated inside the flagship. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His ship was dying around him. And he finally understood the truth that would die with him. Humanity was not a primitive species waiting to be conquered. They were apex predators who had pretended to be prey. He opened one final communication channel, broadcasting to his home world light years away. His last words would take time to reach them, but perhaps they would serve as a warning. This is Admiral Vex Thor. We attacked Earth. We were wrong. They are not like the others. They are not weak. They are. The transmission ended. The flagship's power failed. For a moment, Vex Thor floated in darkness. Then the hull breached, and he died in silence, along with the last remnants of his fleet. In the command center, General Han watched the final enemy signals disappear from the tactical display. The entire engagement had lasted 3.7 seconds, from first shot to final kill. 3,000 Velkari warships destroyed, approximately 4 million enemy personnel dead, human casualties, 0. The room was silent. Officers stared at their screens in disbelief. They had known Earth was powerful. They had trained for years, but seeing it happen, seeing an entire invasion fleet erased in less than 4 seconds, was something else entirely. General Han turned away from the display. He opened a new communication channel, one that would reach across the stars to the Velkari homeworld. When he spoke, his voice was neither angry nor triumphant. It was simply factual. This is General Han of Earth. Your fleet attacked our world. Your fleet no longer exists. We did not want this war. We wanted to be left alone. That option is now over. The galaxy knows about us, and the galaxy will learn what happens to those who attack Earth. You have 24 hours to respond. Use them wisely. The transmission ended. Earth fell silent. Across the planet, people emerged from shelters. They looked up at the sky where enemy ships had been minutes before. The sky was empty now. Clear. Safe. Ambassador G returned from the Velkari flagship in a small escape pod. She had been in her cell when the battle began and ended. She had felt the flagship die around her. Now she sat in the command center, watching the aftermath. What happens now? She asked quietly. General Han didn't answer immediately. He looked at the tactical display, at the empty space where an Empire's fleet had been. He thought about the message traveling toward the Velkari homeworld. He thought about all the other civilizations that were undoubtedly watching and wondering what had just happened. Now, he finally said, we wait to see if they're smart enough to learn from this. The Velkari homeworld received the final transmissions from their fleet exactly 16 hours after the battle. Supreme Overlord Tonix watched the recordings in his palace chambers. He watched 1,000 ships vanish without explanation. He watched his fleet's formation collapse. He watched signals blink out, one by one, until nothing remained. Then he watched the human message. The general, with the calm face and cold eyes. The simple statement, The 24-hour deadline. Thonix called his war council immediately. Admirals and generals gathered in the strategy room. They argued for hours. Some demanded revenge. They wanted to send the full might of the Velkari military, 10 times the size of the First Fleet. Others urged caution. They had watched the recordings. They had seen something impossible. How did they destroy our ships so quickly? Admiral Court demanded. Our intelligence was certain they were primitive. The intelligence was wrong, Thonix said quietly. The question now is what we do about it. On Earth, Captain Tay prepared for a mission that would change everything. His ship, the Silent Dawn, had been refitted after the battle. Dr. Yuna had installed new systems. Weapons designed not to kill but to demonstrate. Tay's orders were clear. He would take a small task force to the Velkari home world. He would not fire a shot, but he would make them understand. The journey took 3 days using Earth's faster-than-light drives. They were different from Velkari drives. Based on different physics, instead of tearing holes in space, they slid through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed. It was quieter, more efficient, and completely undetectable to Velkari sensors. The task force consisted of 5 ships. They emerged from their dimensional transit directly above the Velkari capital city. No warning, no detection. One moment, the sky was empty. The next moment, human warships hung in orbit like dark stars. Every alarm on the planet screamed at once. Defense satellites activated. Weapons platforms powered up. Missiles locked onto the human ships. The Velkari had seconds to decide whether to fire. Thonix stood in his war room, staring at the display. The human ships made no aggressive moves. They simply waited. After a long moment, he gave the order. Hold fire. Let's see what they want. Captain Tay opened a communication channel. His message was broadcast on every frequency, in every language spoken on the Velkari homeworld. This is Captain Tay of Earth. We are not here to attack. We are here to deliver a message. You sent a fleet to conquer us. That fleet is gone. Every ship, every soldier, they died in less than 4 seconds. We could do the same to your world. We could erase your cities. We could destroy your fleets. We could end your civilization before your defenses even registered that we were here. He paused, letting the words sink in. But we don't want to. We wanted to be left alone. You chose otherwise. So now, you will understand exactly what you challenged. From the Silent Dawn, a targeting laser activated. It was harmless by itself, just a beam of light. But within 1 second, every military installation on the Velkari homeworld was painted by targeting lasers. Barracks, shipyards, command centers, weapon facilities, every single one. In the Velkari war room, displays lit up with hundreds of targeting indicators. Officers shouted. Systems tried to calculate firing solutions. But there were too many targets, all designated simultaneously. Their computers couldn't process it fast enough. Intelligence Officer Mira had made this possible. She sat in her station aboard Tay's ship, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. She had hacked into every Velkari computer network during the 3-day journey. She knew the location of every military asset. She knew every defense protocol. She had access to their communications, their surveillance, their most secure databases, and she had left messages for them to find. Simple text files buried in their own systems. Instructions on how humanity had infiltrated their networks. Proof that Earth could see everything they did. Dr. Yuna's demonstration came next. From the Earth's hidden base, on one of the Velkari system's outer moons, a new weapon activated. It didn't fire at the planet. It fired at their moon. The beam hit the lunar surface and began to push. Slowly at first, then faster. The moon moved in its orbit. On the Velkari homeworld, people looked up in horror. Their moon was moving. Something was pushing it out of position. Tides began to shift. Ocean levels changed. The orbital mechanics that had been stable for millions of years were suddenly breaking. Thonix felt his blood turn cold. They were demonstrating precision. They weren't destroying the moon. They were moving it, showing that they could control it like a toy. And the message was clear. If they could move a moon, they could drop it on a planet. After exactly 1 minute, the beam stopped. The moon slowly began to return to its natural orbit. The crisis ended as quickly as it had begun. But the point had been made. Captain Tay's voice came again. "We are sending you data now. Video recordings of your fleet's destruction. Scientific analysis of the weapons we used. Tactical breakdowns showing how easily we defeated your forces. Share this with your military. Share it with your scientists. Let them study it. Let them understand." The data packet arrived. Velkari analysts opened it frantically. What they saw shocked them into silence. The humans hadn't just defeated their fleet. They had toyed with it. The analysis showed weapon systems fired at reduced power, targeting solutions that were unnecessarily complex, as if the humans were practicing battle formations designed to minimize enemy suffering rather than maximize destruction. The humans could have killed them faster. They had chosen not to. Ambassador G appeared on the communication channel next. She stood beside Captain Tay on the Silent Dawn's bridge. "I warned Admiral Vexthor. I told him what would happen if he attacked. He didn't believe me. Now his entire fleet is gone. Supreme Overlord Thonix, you have a choice. You can accept what has happened and stand down. Or you can send another fleet. If you choose the second option, we will not stop at destroying your military. We will dismantle your entire empire system by system. Not because we want to, because we need the galaxy to understand that attacking Earth is suicide." In his war room, Thonix looked at his advisors. The admirals who had demanded revenge were silent now. They had seen the demonstrations. They had reviewed the battle data. They understood what their empire faced. "How?" Thonix asked, speaking directly to the human ships. "How did a single world become so powerful? Your signals showed you were barely reaching your moon. You had chemical rockets, primitive energy production. How?" General Han's voice answered from Earth, the communication relayed through Tay's ship. "We showed you what we wanted you to see. We have been watching the galaxy for 70 years. We saw what happened to species who revealed their true strength too early. They were attacked, their technology stolen, their people enslaved. So we hid. We sent out false signals. We pretended to be weak, and we waited to see who would try to take advantage of that weakness. The truth settled over the Velkari leadership like a weight. "You were bait," Thonix said slowly. "Yes," Han replied. "And your empire took the bait. Along with 16 other civilizations that sent scouts or probes to study us over the decades. We destroyed those too. Quietly, leaving no trace. You were the first to come in force. You were the first we needed to answer publicly. On the Velkari home world, people watched the sky where human ships orbited. They watched their military do nothing. They watched their supreme overlord negotiate instead of fighting. And slowly, they began to understand that their empire's age of conquest was over. Thonix made his decision. He opened a channel that broadcast across his entire empire. "This is Supreme Overlord Thonix. I am ordering an immediate ceasefire with Earth. All military operations are suspended. All fleets are to return to defensive positions. The war with humanity is over. We surrender." The words were bitter. His empire had never surrendered before. But he was not a fool. He had seen what these humans could do, and he knew that pride was worth nothing compared to survival. Captain Tay received the message and nodded slowly. "Surrender accepted. But there are conditions." Over the next hours, Ambassador G laid out Earth's terms. The Velkari Empire would release all conquered species. They would withdraw to their original 3-star systems. They would share all intelligence about other hostile civilizations, and they would never again attack a species without provocation. In return, Earth would not destroy them, would not dismantle their civilization, would allow them to continue existing. Thonix agreed to everything. He had no choice. As the negotiations concluded, Intelligence Officer Mira received new data from her monitoring systems. 17 other civilizations had observed the entire exchange. Some were former Velkari subjects, already celebrating their freedom. Others were hostile powers, now reconsidering their expansion plans. And a few were ancient civilizations that had remained hidden like Earth. They sent brief messages, short greetings, acknowledgments of kinship. Humanity was no longer alone in the shadows. 6 months passed. The galaxy changed in ways both visible and hidden. The Velkari Empire fractured into independent systems as species seized their freedom. Trade routes shifted. Old alliances collapsed and new ones formed. And through it all, Earth watched and waited. General Han stood in the new Galactic Assembly Hall on Earth's orbital station. 34 different species had sent representatives. Some came seeking protection. Others came offering trade. A few came simply to see humanity with their own eyes, to understand what kind of species could destroy a fleet in 4 seconds and then show mercy. The assembly hall was designed for this diversity. Atmosphere zones accommodated different breathing requirements. Gravity fields adjusted to each species' comfort. Translation systems rendered every language into every other language in real time. It was a technical marvel that most species assumed was beyond Earth's capability. They were wrong about many things. Dr. Yuna gave a presentation to the assembled scientists. She showed them human technology, but carefully. She explained the principles behind gravity manipulation and zero-point energy extraction. She demonstrated quantum entanglement communication. But she never revealed the complete designs. Never showed them the discoveries from the ancient probe that had started it all. Knowledge must be earned, she told them. We will share what we can safely share. But we will not give weapons to those who would use them for conquest. Some species protested. Others understood. A few were grateful for humanity's caution. Captain Tay led exploration missions into previously unknown regions. His task force discovered 6 new civilizations in the first 3 months. 4 were peaceful and welcomed contact. 2 were aggressive and received the same message Earth had given the Velkari. A demonstration of power, followed by an offer of peace. Both chose peace. Ambassador G worked 18-hour days, establishing the Terra Accords. The new rules were simple. No species could attack another without provocation. Disputes would be mediated. Trade would be protected. And Earth would enforce these rules with overwhelming force if necessary. We don't want to be the galaxy's police, Xi explained to a council of alien diplomats. But we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. And we will end conflicts before they become wars. It was a radical change from the previous galactic order, where might made right and the strong conquered the weak. Not everyone accepted it. Intelligence Officer Mira detected the conspiracy in its early stages. 3 civilizations, resentful of Earth's sudden dominance, began secret meetings. They were the Krell Compact, the Zephon Collective, and the Merchants Guild. Individually, they were minor powers. Together, they controlled significant resources and technology. Their plan was ambitious. They would steal human technology and reverse engineer it. Then they would build weapons to counter Earth's advantage. Mira watched their communications with interest. She knew their plans almost before they did. She reported to General Han during one of their daily briefings. They're meeting again in 3 days. They've hired a team of hackers and infiltration specialists. Their target is the Aurora Project facility. Han considered this. Do they have any chance of success? None. Our security systems would detect them within seconds. But if we simply stop them, others will try. We need to make an example. Han nodded slowly. Let them get close. Let them think they're succeeding. then show them exactly why they never had a chance. The infiltration team was good. They approached Earth in a stealth ship, using technology bought from a black market dealer. They masked their energy signatures. They used sophisticated hacking tools. They even had inside information from a human who had sold them outdated security codes. They made it past Earth's outer defenses. They reached the Aurora Project facility. They began their infiltration. And every step of the way, Mira and her team watched. Engineer Day monitored the intruders from his security station. They're accessing the outer database now. Should I cut them off? Not yet, Mira said calmly. Let them think they've found something valuable. The infiltrators downloaded what they believed were weapon schematics, detailed plans for singularity cannons, power systems, targeting solutions. They transmitted the data to their employers and extracted successfully. The mission seemed like a complete victory. The Krell, Zephon, and merchant representatives met to review their prize. Scientists examined the schematics. Engineers debated construction methods. Military advisors planned how to deploy the weapons once they were built. Then the files activated. The schematics weren't real. They were a trap. A virus wrapped in false data. It didn't destroy the recipient's computer systems. Instead, it traced back every network connection, identified every member of the conspiracy, and extracted all their plans. Within hours, Mira had complete intelligence on every individual involved, every resource they controlled, and every future operation they had planned. General Han called the three civilizations' leaders personally. We know about your conspiracy. We know about the infiltration team. We know about your plans to steal our technology and build weapons to challenge us. The three leaders began to protest. But Han cut them off. We let you try. We wanted to see how far you would go. Now you understand the truth. You cannot steal from us. You cannot hack our systems. You cannot match our technology. Not now. Not ever. Because every time you advance, we advance further. We are always ahead. We will always be ahead. He paused to let that sink in. However, we understand your concerns. You fear our power. That fear is reasonable. So we are making you an offer. Join the Terra Accords properly. Accept our protection instead of fearing our dominance. We will share basic technology with you. Not weapons, but improvements to your energy production, your medicine, your quality of life. In return, you pledge to keep the peace. The three leaders discussed among themselves. They had no real choice. Their conspiracy had failed completely. But Han's offer was genuine. They would lose nothing except their ability to make war. They would gain much. All three accepted. Dr. Yuna established the Technology Sharing Initiative. Selected species received access to human knowledge in stages. Tier 1 included basic energy efficiency improvements and medical advances. Tier 2 included better computer systems and materials science. Tier 3 and beyond would come later. If a species proved trustworthy, we're not trying to keep you primitive, Yuna explained at a scientific conference. We're trying to ensure that power is matched with wisdom. Give a child a knife and they might hurt themselves. Give them a gun and they might hurt others. We are giving you tools. At the pace, you can safely use them. Some scientists were frustrated by the restrictions. Others understood the reasoning. A Velkari scientist stood during the question period. You say power must match wisdom, but who decides when we are wise enough? You? Yuna nodded. Yes, because we have seen what happens when weapons are given to those not ready for them. We found evidence. Ancient civilizations that destroyed themselves with technology they couldn't control. We will not allow that to happen again. She activated a holographic display. It showed a dead world orbiting a distant star. Cities reduced to craters. Atmosphere burned away. Nothing alive remained. This civilization developed antimatter weapons before they developed wisdom. They had a war. Both sides lost. Their entire species died, in 6 hours. We found their ruins 40 years ago. We learned from their mistake. The room fell silent. The message was clear. Humanity had seen the future that awaited species who gained power too quickly. They would prevent it, even if other species resented them for it. Captain Tay returned from a deep space mission with disturbing news. His exploration team had found more dead worlds. 7 of them. Scattered across a region of space known as the Dark Zone, all showed signs of similar destruction. Advanced civilizations destroyed by their own weapons. But one site was different. On a frozen moon orbiting a gas giant, Tay's team found ruins that were far older. Structures made from materials that shouldn't exist. Technology that even Earth scientists couldn't fully understand. And a warning. The warning was carved in a universal mathematical language on a monument of indestructible material. Dr. Yuna translated it with the help of Earth's most advanced computers. The message was simple, but chilling. We were the first to manipulate the fundamental forces. We thought ourselves gods. We were wrong. Beware the path of unlimited power. There are limits built into reality itself. Cross them, and reality breaks. We crossed them. Now we are gone. This is our last warning to those who come after. Yuna shared the translation with General Han privately. What do you think it means? Han asked. I think it means we've been lucky. We found the ancient probe that gave us this technology. We learned from it carefully. But there are apparently levels beyond what we have. And those levels are dangerous. Han looked at the translation for a long moment. Should we stop researching? Stop advancing? No. But we should be careful. Very careful. And perhaps the restrictions we place on other species should also apply to ourselves. Han agreed. That evening, he issued a classified directive. All advanced research projects would now include safety reviews. Any technology that might pose an existential risk would require approval from a council of scientists, ethicists, and leaders before development could proceed. Humanity had gained great power. Now they had to learn not to abuse it. The galaxy was changing. The age of conquest was ending. A new age of cooperation and careful growth was beginning. And at the center of it all, Earth stood watch. Not as conquerors, not as overlords, but as guardians who had learned the most important lesson. Power without wisdom led to destruction. And wisdom meant knowing when not to use the power you possessed. 1 year after the Velkari fleet died in 4 seconds, General Han stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station and watched ships from 30 different species dock peacefully. Some came for trade, others for diplomatic meetings. A few simply to see the home world of humanity with their own eyes. The galaxy had changed more in 12 months than in the previous 1,000 years, but not everyone was happy about it. In a dark meeting room on a distant space station, representatives from 7 civilizations gathered in secret. They wore masks to hide their identities. They used encrypted channels for their communications. And they shared a common goal. They wanted humanity brought down. Earth controls too much, one representative hissed. They decide who gets technology. They decide who can fight. They police the entire galaxy with their weapons. They're preventing wars, another argued. Conflicts that would have killed billions now end peacefully. At the cost of our freedom, we have become children who need permission from our parents. The debate continued for hours. These were not evil beings. They were proud civilizations who remembered when they made their own choices, fought their own battles, controlled their own destinies. Earth's guardianship felt like imprisonment, even if it was a comfortable prison. Intelligence Officer Mira knew about the meeting before it happened. She had monitoring systems throughout the galaxy now, not surveillance of private communications, but awareness of large gatherings and unusual activity. When 7 species met secretly, she paid attention. She reported it to General Han, but not with alarm. They're venting frustration. It's healthy. Let them complain. As long as they don't try another infiltration or attack, Words are harmless. Read. To me. Too. Han agreed. We can't force them to like us. We can only prevent them from harming others. Dr. Yuna spent her time teaching rather than building weapons. She had established an academy on Earth's moon, where scientists from across the galaxy could study. The curriculum was carefully designed. Basic physics, energy management, safety protocols, and always, the history lessons, the dead worlds, the civilizations that had destroyed themselves, the warning from the Ancient Ones. A young Velkari scientist named Keth approached her after class one day. "Professor Yuna, may I ask a question that might offend you?" Yuna smiled. "Knowledge comes from questions, even uncomfortable ones. Ask. Lan. And yourself. Do you think your species is better than ours? Superior, somehow?" Yuna considered the question carefully. "No. We got lucky. We found technology we weren't ready for, but we were cautious about using it. We watched the galaxy and learned from others' mistakes. We made good choices. But good choices aren't the same as superiority. Any species could have done what we did. We just happened to be the ones who did." Keth seemed satisfied with that answer. But as he left, Yuna wondered if she believed her own words. Were humans truly not superior? Or had their caution and wisdom made them something greater than they had been? Captain Tay's exploration missions continued. His fleet had grown to 20 ships now, each one carrying mixed crews from different species. He believed that diversity made his teams stronger. Different perspectives solved different problems. On his latest mission, they discovered something unprecedented. A civilization that was more advanced than Earth. The discovery came by accident. Tay's ship, the Silent Dawn, detected unusual energy signatures near a nebula. Following the trail, they found a hidden system with a single inhabited planet. The beings there called themselves the Whispers. They had been watching the galaxy even longer than humanity. They had technology that made Earth's weapons look primitive, and they had chosen complete isolation. An ancient whisper named Ven agreed to meet with Tay aboard a neutral station. Ven appeared as shifting light, its true form unclear. "Why do you hide?" Tay asked. "You could shape the galaxy with your power." "We tried that once," Ven replied, its voice like wind through leaves. "Thousands of years ago. We thought ourselves wise enough to guide younger species. We were wrong. Our guidance became control. Our control became tyranny. We destroyed 3 civilizations trying to help them. So we withdrew. We watch now. We learn. But we do not interfere." Tay felt a chill. Is that what Earth is becoming? Tyrants who think they're helping? Perhaps, perhaps not. The difference is in how you respond when species reject your help. If you force them to accept it, you become tyrants. If you allow them to refuse and face the consequences, you remain guardians. The conversation lasted hours. Ven shared warnings and wisdom. When Tay finally returned to Earth, he brought a message that would change everything. General Han called an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from all member species gathered. Han stood before them and spoke with unusual emotion. "We have been operating under the assumption that we know what's best for the galaxy. We enforce peace. We restrict technology. We make decisions that affect billions of beings who have no say in those decisions. Today, I am proposing a change." He activated a display showing the new structure. The Terra Accords would remain, but governance would shift. A true council would form, with representatives from every member species. Decisions would be made collectively. Earth would retain its military power but use it only when the council voted to authorize force. "We will still protect you," Han said. "But we will no longer rule you. The choice of how to build your future belongs to all of us. Together." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species welcomed the change. Others worried that it would weaken Earth's ability to respond to threats. Ambassador G spent weeks negotiating the details. The new Galactic Council formed 3 months later. Its first act was to establish clear rules about when Earth could use military force. Its second act was to expand the technology sharing program, allowing species to advance faster if they met safety requirements. Its third act was to vote on whether to investigate the ancient warnings about dangerous technology. The vote passed unanimously. Dr. Yuna led the research team. They studied the dead worlds. They analyzed the warning monument. They examined Earth's own technology for potential dangers. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. Reality has rules, Yuna explained to the council. Physics. Mathematics. These aren't just descriptions of how things work. They're safety barriers. Some technologies break those barriers. Singularity weapons, for example, compress space-time. Push it too far, and you could tear a hole that doesn't close. Zero-point energy extraction pulls power from quantum foam. Extract too much, and you could destabilize local space-time. So we're using dangerous technology right now? A counselor asked. We're using it safely. We know the limits. But if we push beyond those limits, seeking more power, we could cause catastrophic damage. Not just to ourselves, to reality itself in this region of space. The Council voted to establish hard limits on technology development. Certain research would be forbidden, not restricted. Forbidden. Any species that pursued it would face immediate intervention. It was the first law that truly applied to Earth as much as to others. Engineer Day retired from military service and began building civilian infrastructure. Orbital habitats. Space elevators. Fusion reactors for colony worlds. He worked with engineers from a dozen species, sharing knowledge freely now that the Council had authorized it. One day, a Krell engineer asked him a question while they worked on a space station. Why did Earth hide for so long? If you had revealed yourselves 50 years ago, you could have prevented so much suffering. Day paused his work. Maybe. Or, maybe we would have caused a war that killed billions. The Velkari would have united other species against us, out of fear. We waited until we were strong enough that resistance was impossible. It was cold logic. But it saved lives in the long run. And now? Now that you've revealed yourselves? Now we hope we made the right choice. Time will tell. Intelligence Officer Mira continued monitoring the galaxy. But her role had changed. She no longer spied on potential enemies. Instead, she watched for emerging threats that endangered everyone. Pirate networks, resource disputes, signs of ancient technology being uncovered without proper safety protocols. She found herself preventing conflicts before they started, simply by ensuring all parties had complete information. Transparency, she discovered, was more powerful than secrecy in building trust. Captain Tay made a final visit to the Whispers before their civilization returned to complete isolation. Ven met him again. You are learning, Ven said. Faster than we did. Perhaps your species will succeed where we failed. What advice can you give us? Tay asked. Remember that power is not the goal. Security is not the goal. Even peace is not the final goal. The goal is allowing each species to reach its full potential without destroying itself or others. Sometimes that means protecting them. Sometimes it means letting them fail and learn from failure. Wisdom is knowing which approach each situation requires. Tay carried those words back to Earth. They became the guiding principle of the new Galactic Council. 5 years after the Velkari fleet's destruction, the galaxy had stabilized into a new order. Wars still occurred, but they were small and quickly resolved. Technology advanced at a careful pace. Species that had been enemies learned to cooperate, and Earth, having saved the galaxy from tyranny, worked to save it from the tyranny they themselves might have become. General Han retired from military command. He spent his final years teaching strategy at the academy Dr. Yuna had established. His lessons focused not on how to win wars, but on how to prevent them. Dr. Yuna continued her research, but with new restrictions and oversight. She never resented the limitations. She understood they existed to prevent the mistake that had killed civilizations before. Ambassador G became the first speaker of the Galactic Council. She guided debates and built consensus among species that had never agreed on anything before. It was exhausting work, but it was also the work she had been born to do. And throughout the galaxy, beings looked up at the stars with hope instead of fear. The age of conquest had ended. The age of cooperation had begun. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still disputes, still beings who resented the restrictions on their freedom. But it was better. Measurably, objectively better than what had come before. On Earth, in a quiet room overlooking the Pacific Ocean, General Han sat with his old team, Yuna, Tay, Ji, Mira, Day. They shared tea and watched the sunset. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Ji asked. "Revealing ourselves? Taking control? Then giving that control away?" Han considered the question for a long moment. Then he smiled. Something he rarely did. "We did what we thought was right at the time. We made mistakes. We'll probably make more. But we tried. We tried to use our power to protect rather than to conquer. In the end, that's all anyone can do. Try to be better than those who came before." The sun set over Earth, casting long shadows. And across the galaxy, 34 species slept peacefully, guarded by beings who had learned that the greatest strength was knowing when not to use your strength at all. The galaxy had learned what happened when you attacked Earth. Now it was learning something far more important. What happened when Earth chose to help instead?